Their laughter echoed across the comms channel, bouncing off the Dauntless's battered hull. But then the lead cruiser's energy signature spiked. The Ithorian captain spoke one word before cutting the connection. Impossible. The Dauntless, a veteran of countless border skirmishes, drifted along the edge of Ithorian space, its hull scarred and patched like an old warrior's hide. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the corridors, casting long shadows across hastily welded plates. In stark contrast, the Ithorian cruisers that now surrounded it were all smooth curves and shimmering energy shields, their pristine surfaces reflecting the cold light of a distant nebula. They were predators circling a wounded beast. A holographic image flickered to life on the Dauntless's bridge. The Ithorian captain, a towering figure with elaborate head fronds and condescending eyes, addressed them. Humans of the Dauntless, your vessel is in violation of Ithorian territorial law. More accurately, your vessel is a disgrace. State your purpose, or prepare to be boarded. His voice dripped with disdain, each syllable a calculated insult. I must say your antiquated technology is almost charming. Almost. On board the lead Ithorian cruiser Daphne, a young scientist with a thirst for discovery that often clashed with her captain's rigid protocols, watched the exchange with detached curiosity. Captain, she interjected, her voice calm and measured, requesting permission for a detailed scan of the human vessel. I am detecting unusual energy signatures. Ignore the pirates, they are just having fun. The captain waved a dismissive hand. Waste your time if you must, Daphne, but do not expect to find anything of interest. Humans rarely surprise. Daphne initiated the scan. Moments later, a complex web of energy readings filled her console, painting a picture of the Dauntless's internal systems. But it was the readings from the hull that caught her attention. A chaotic, pulsating energy field clung to the ship like a second skin, an experimental bio-integrated armor system, hardly restrained, thrumming with barely controlled power. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, a radical departure from established scientific principles. Back on the Dauntless, Ryan Davis, a systems engineer whose face was etched with years of frontier hardship, watched the Ithorian scan progress across his own monitor. Here we go again, he muttered, adjusting a frayed cable with a weary sigh. Another bunch of tin-plated tourists come to laugh at the rust bucket. He didn't buy into the humanity fuck yeah rhetoric that Earth Command loved to spout. Out here, on the edge of known space, human ingenuity wasn't about glory. It was about survival. It was about jury-rigging solutions that kept you alive long enough to see another sunrise. Still, a flicker of pride sparked within him as he glanced at the schematics for the bio-armor. It was his baby, a gamble born of desperation and fueled by caffeine. The scan data finalized. The bio-armor wasn't just unusual, it was dangerously unstable. According to the readings, a critical failure could unleash an explosion equivalent to a small tactical nuke, vaporizing the Dauntless and everything around it. On the Ithorian cruiser, Daphne stared at the data in disbelief. This wasn't just a technological curiosity, it was a potential catastrophe waiting to happen. The bio-armor represented a leap in technology beyond anything Ithorian science had conceived. More alarming was a specific resonance frequency embedded within the energy field, a harmonic vulnerability that could be exploited by certain energy weapons. Daphne cross-referenced the frequency with known weapon signatures. The results were chilling. Only one race in the galaxy utilized weapons with that precise resonant frequency: the Krill, a swarm-like species known for their ruthlessness and hatred of all biological life. "Captain," Daphne said, her voice tight with urgency, "the human ship. It's emitting an extremely dangerous energy signature, and it is vulnerable to weapons used by the Krill." The Ithorian captain, initially dismissive, paled as he absorbed the information. "Krill," he barked an order to his helmsman, Move us to a defensive position. Now, on board the Dauntless, Ryan swore under his breath. Damn it, he muttered. They found the weakness. That scan just painted a bullseye on our hull. He knew what this meant. The krill were scavengers drawn to weakness like moths to a flame. He banged his head on the comm panel. This is engineering to command. Priority 1 message. The Ithorian scan has revealed the bio-armor's resonance frequency. We are now a prime target for the krill. Request immediate tactical assessment and... Well, prayers wouldn't hurt either. Ryan smacked his head on the comms console, the ancient metal vibrating under the impact. Static shrieked from the speakers, a mocking echo of his futile attempts to reach Starfleet Command. The Ithorian jamming was a solid wall of noise. Damn it, he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Not even a peep. On the bridge of the lead Ithorian cruiser Resonance, Daphne clenched her four-fingered hand. Her captain, a towering Ithorian named Thrax, continued to issue orders, his booming voice filled with disdain for the human vessel. But Daphne couldn't shake the image of the bio-armor, that unstable, pulsating field of energy clinging to the Dauntless's hull. Against direct orders, she tapped a sequence on her console, rerouting a low-bandwidth channel, a private and very unauthorized communication line. This is Ithorian Science Officer Daphne. Her voice crackled through the Dauntless's speakers, overriding the persistent static. 2. Whoever is in charge of that vessel, I am contacting you against my captain's orders. Respond. Ryan froze, his hand hovering over the power switch. An Ithorian offering communication. It had to be a trap, still he couldn't ignore it. This is Ryan Davis, he replied cautiously, his voice tight with suspicion. Chief Systems Engineer of the Dauntless. What do you want? The bio-armor, Daphne said urgently, bypassing any formal pleasantries. Our scans indicate a high degree of instability. Furthermore, we believe the krill. Their weapons are specifically tuned to resonate with your armor. If they engage, the potential for a catastrophic explosion is significant. Ryan felt a cold dread creep into his bones. He knew the risks of the bio-armor, of course. Every engineer on the Dauntless did. It was a desperate gamble, a last-ditch effort to give their obsolete ship a fighting chance. Significant, he echoed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. That's one way to put it. We're sitting on a damn nuke if that thing goes off. A klaxon blared through the Dauntless, its shrill cry cutting through their tense exchange. Incoming. A voice yelled from the bridge. Multiple contacts bearing 22 Mark 7, krill signatures. On the main view screen, a swarm of angular, obsidian ships materialized from hyperspace, their crystalline hulls glinting menacingly in the dim light of the system. They moved with a chilling precision, their weapons already charging. The lead ships immediately locked onto the Dauntless. The Dauntless shuddered violently as the first energy bolt slammed into its shields. Inside the engineering bay, the bio-armor flared, energy arcs crackling across the hull like miniature lightning strikes. Alarms wailed, a cacophony of impending doom. The resonance frequency is climbing. A frantic technician shouted, his voice barely audible above the din. It's off the charts. Daphne's voice returned, filled with urgency. I am sending you the schematics of the krill energy weapons. Analyze them. There must be a way to counteract their resonance. Ryan swallowed hard, his mind racing. He pulled up the data stream, the krill weapon schematics flooding his console. Lines of code, energy diagrams, harmonic frequencies. It was a chaotic mess, but within it he began to see a pattern. A specific harmonic resonance, deliberately designed to amplify the bio-armor's instability. I see it, he said, his voice barely a whisper. They're using a harmonic frequency to overload the armor. If we can disrupt that resonance, maybe we can turn this thing around. Turn it around. Daphne asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Are you suggesting you can weaponize the bio-armor? It's a long shot, Ryan admitted, his fingers flying across the console. A damn suicidal one, but if we can modify the armor's frequency to disrupt their weapons, we might just have a chance. The alternative is a quick, very bright ending. Daphne hesitated. The risk. If your calculations are off, the bio-armor could explode. The consequences would be catastrophic. Catastrophic is already on the menu, Ryan retorted grimly. We're outgunned, outmaneuvered, and about to be krill fried. This is the only card we have left to play. I need a frequency modulator, Ryan said, his voice tight with urgency. Something that can precisely adjust the bio-armor's resonance. We don't have anything like that on this rust bucket. Daphne was silent for a moment, the hum of the Ithorian bridge filling the void. Then she spoke, her voice resolute. We have such a modulator. I will attempt to reroute the signal to your ship, but my captain, if he discovers what I am doing. We're running out of time, Ryan interrupted, his eyes fixed on the incoming krill ships. Just get it to us. On the resonance, Daphne worked furiously, her 4 hands manipulating the complex controls with practiced ease. She bypassed security protocols, rerouted power conduits, and masked her actions from the rest of the crew. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. As she worked, the first krill energy bolt slammed into the Dauntless's shields, the impacts rocking the ship violently. Daphne initiated the sequence, her hand trembling slightly as she bypassed the final firewall. Frequency modulator signal routed to the Dauntless, she announced, her voice betraying none of the internal turmoil. Her captain, suspicious of her focused attention on the tactical console, turned a questioning gaze her way. On the Dauntless, alarms blared as a new data stream flooded Ryan's console. We've got something coming in from the Ithorians, he yelled over the din, his fingers flying across the keyboard. But it's encrypted and corrupted. Looks like their security protocols are fighting us every step of the way. He swore under his breath, the clock ticking down with each passing second. Suddenly, a series of deafening impacts rocked the ship. Shields down to 40%. A voice shrieked from the bridge. Krill fighters are hammering us. The Dauntless shuddered under the relentless assault. We've lost primary power conduits. Another alarm wailed. Life support failing in sections 3 through 7. Ryan cursed. He had a choice to make and only seconds to make it. Gritting his teeth, he rerouted auxiliary power. Divert all available power to life support, he barked into the comm. I don't care what else goes offline, keep those people breathing. The consequence was immediate. The bio-armor containment fields flickered, then weakened, the pulsating energy beginning to leak, a visible corona around the ship's hull. Ryan, sweat dripping from his brow, wrestled with the decryption algorithm. Almost, a flicker on his console. Daphne's voice tight with urgency cut through the static. I'm sending you a bypass code. It'll override their encryption, but it'll also flag my station. I don't have much time. A string of characters flashed across his screen. Taking a deep breath, Ryan input the code. The decryption matrix dissolved, revealing the raw data stream. Just as the last firewall crumbled, the bio-armor containment fields failed completely. The Dauntless groaned in protest as raw bioenergy arced across its hull, the metallic skin glowing with an eerie, organic light. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the air crackled with static electricity. Brace for impact, someone screamed. Ryan, ignoring the chaos around him, initiated the bio-armor modification sequence, feeding the Ithorian modulator signal into the human systems. Here we go, he muttered, his fingers crossed. Let's see if this works. The bio-armor's energy signatures went haywire, fluctuating wildly. One moment the ship was bathed in an intense blue glow, the next it was shrouded in ominous crimson. Unpredictable energy surges ripped through the ship, overloading circuits and sending sparks flying. Outside, the krill ships intensified their attack, their energy weapons lancing through space with renewed ferocity. They sensed the Dauntless's increasing instability, drawn to it like predators to a wounded beast. Ryan, his eyes glued to the readings, saw a pattern emerging. "I'm isolating the harmonics from their weapons," he announced, his voice strained. I think I can feed it back into the bio-armor system." On the Ithorian bridge, Daphne watched in horror as Ryan adapted the Krill weapon schematics, the implications of his actions becoming terrifyingly clear. He's creating a feedback loop," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The bio-armor began to resonate with the Krill energy weapons, creating a cascading effect that amplified the energy output exponentially. The Dauntless was becoming a giant capacitor, storing and magnifying the Krill's own attacks. "Rerouting bioenergy into weapon systems," Ryan announced, his voice grim. "This is it, all or nothing." He banged his hand on the activation switch. The Dauntless shuddered as its weapon systems charged with the raw, untamed power of the modified bio-armor. A beam of pure energy, unlike anything ever seen before, erupted from the ship's main cannon, vaporizing and attacking Krill fighter in a blinding flash of light. The bio-armor, now stable, radiated an energy signature that pulsed with barely held-back power. The remaining Krill fighters scattered, their attack faltering, fear evident in their erratic flight patterns. Daphne stared at her console, her mandibles agape in disbelief. The sheer destructive power of the modified bio-armor was terrifying. Humanity had turned a near-fatal flaw into a weapon of unimaginable potential. "Cease communications with the Dauntless," the Ithorian captain barked, his voice cold and hard. "Prepare for engagement." The Krill weapons adapted, their energy pulses now a sickly green, slicing through Ithorian shields like gossamer. Explosions blossomed across the lead cruiser, tearing chunks of armor plating into the void. Comms channels erupted with panicked cries. "Shields failing, Captain," a voice shrieked. "We're taking heavy fire." Daphne watched the tactical retreat unfold on her holoscreen, her three hearts hammering against her carapace. The Krill weren't just attacking, they were surgically dismantling the Ithorian command structure, focusing their fire on command ships with chilling precision. Her brow furrowed. Something was off. On the Dauntless, Ryan's fingers danced across his console, lines of code scrolling past his weary eyes. "Damn it," he muttered, the holographic display reflecting in his grizzled face. "They've modulated the pulse, bypassing the resonance field like it's not even there." He swiveled in his chair, his voice tight with urgency. "Daphne, they're hitting you hard, their new energy signature. It's a harmonic frequency, disrupting the bio-armor's field. We need to adjust." "Adjust how, human?" Her voice was tinged with a new kind of urgency, fear replacing the earlier arrogance. "I'm thinking. A counter-frequency. We modify the bio-armor to emit a pulse that disrupts their modulation. But it'll require a risky power overload. Could fry half the systems on this rust bucket." Daphne's mandibles clicked in agitation. "An overload? Are you insane? That vessel is already operating on borrowed time. Catastrophic system failure is virtually guaranteed." Ryan leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "It's the only way to protect your fleet, Daphne. Buy you time. Otherwise, they'll pick you apart one by one." He paused, a grin set to his jaw. "And maybe, just maybe, give us a chance to survive this." Daphne hesitated, her internal struggle visible in the subtle shifts of her posture. Then, with a decisive movement, she accessed her console. "I am uploading a subroutine to your vessel, human. It will regulate the power flow during the overload, mitigating the risk. Somewhat." On the bridge of the lead Ithorian cruiser, Captain Vorak narrowed his eyes, observing Daphne's unusual activity. "What are you doing, officer?" His voice boomed across the bridge. "Explain yourself." Daphne turned, her expression carefully neutral, analyzing the human vessels. "Unorthodox defense system, Captain. The bio-armor presents a unique strategic opportunity. Understanding its capabilities is paramount." She carefully omitted the risks. Meanwhile, on the Dauntless, Ryan initiated the power overload. The ship groaned, metal screaming in protest as energy surged through its ancient systems. Sparks flew from overloaded conduits, bathing the engineering section in flickering light. The bio-armor, visible through a reinforced viewport, pulsed with increasing intensity, a chaotic dance of emerald energy. Then, it happened. The bio-armor emitted a wave of counter-frequency, invisible but palpable. The krill's modulated energy pulses flickered, weakened, their deadly precision momentarily disrupted. The krill responded instantly, shifting their attack, focusing their combined firepower on the Dauntless. Energy weapons slammed against the ship's shields, each impact a thunderous blow that rattled its very core. Shields are collapsing. A voice yelled from the bridge. They're adapting again. Ryan watched the energy drain on his monitors, his face etched with concern. Damn it. The counter-frequency is eating through our reserves faster than I anticipated. We're not going to last long. On the Ithorian cruiser, Daphne, witnessing the Dauntless's power drain, made a split-second decision. Her fingers flew across her console, diverting energy from her own ship's auxiliary system's life support, internal lighting, even weapons charging to aid the human vessel. The lights on the Ithorian bridge dimmed, casting long, eerie shadows. Captain Vorek, alerted by the sudden power fluctuation, roared, "What is the meaning of this, officer? Report." Before Daphne could respond, a junior officer stammered, "Captain, Officer Daphne is diverting power to the human vessel. Auxiliary systems are offline." Vorek's eyes narrowed, his gaze hardening. Treason. Arrest her. As security officers moved to apprehend her, Daphne sent a final, encrypted message, a desperate plea transmitted on a tight beam directly to the Dauntless. Ryan, Krill swarm incoming. Concentrated assault. They know I am compromised. The transmission cut off abruptly. Ryan received Daphne's garbled message, his heart sinking. He understood. The Krill were planning a concentrated assault, a final, desperate attempt to silence the bio-armor. He braced himself, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He knew the counter-frequency was their only hope, but its effectiveness was limited and the Dauntless was running on fumes. Then, the inevitable happened. The Dauntless's systems overloaded, plunging the ship into darkness. Alarms wailed, their shrill cries echoing through the silent corridors. Outside, the Krill swarm closed in, their green energy pulses painting the void with deadly light. Power to life support. Every non-essential system flickered and died, plunging sections of the Dauntless into darkness. Alarms blared, their shrill cries echoing through the cramped corridors. He could feel the hum of the emergency generators kicking in, a strained, uneven thrum that vibrated through the soles of his boots. Brace for impact. He yelled into the comm, his voice barely audible above the din. Then they hit. The Dauntless shuddered violently as the Krill swarm began its assault. Energy weapons hammered against the shields, each impact sending tremors through the ship. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, filling the air with the acrid smell of burning circuits. The automated defense system sputtered to life, firing bursts of laser fire, but their effectiveness was limited. The power drain was too severe and the Krill were too numerous. Shields at 40%. A voice screamed from the bridge. They're focusing fire on the bridge and weapons systems. Ryan cursed under his breath. He glanced at the holographic display showing the ship's schematics. The counter-frequency emitter, jury-rigged in the last desperate hour, was still active, bathing the ship in a field of oscillating energy. "Davis," Daphne's voice crackled over the comm, strained with urgency. "The emitter. It's creating a localized energy field. The Krill. They're drawn to it." Ryan's blood ran cold. He stared at the emitter's energy signature on the display, the implications crashing down on him. The emitter wasn't just masking the Dauntless, it was acting as a beacon, amplifying the Krill's targeting capabilities. "Damn it," he muttered, his fingers flying across the console, desperately searching for a way to shut down the emitter. "I need to kill that thing." He tried to access the system controls, but the system was locked. The overload sequence, initiated in the chaos of the previous attack, had sealed it off. "Locked out," he reported to Daphne. "Overload sequence. I can't shut it down." "There has to be a way," Daphne replied, her voice tinged with desperation. Ryan knew there was only one option, a dangerous gamble that could very well tear the Dauntless apart. He could try to jury-rig a manual override, bypassing the safety protocols and forcing the system offline. But the risk was immense. Any mistake could trigger a catastrophic feedback loop, overloading the ship's already compromised systems. "I'm going to try a manual override," he announced, his voice grim. "Stand by for possible complications." He grabbed a handful of cables, stripped the insulation with his teeth, and began rerouting power, bypassing damaged circuits and overriding safety interlocks. Sparks showered around him as he worked, the air thick with ozone. The ship groaned under the strain, metal screaming against metal. Finally, with a surge of power that nearly knocked him off his feet, he managed to force the system offline. The emitter sputtered, flickered, and died. The energy field vanished. For a moment there was silence. The Krill attack seemed to falter, their energy weapons momentarily ceasing fire. Then, a new alarm blared to life. "They're sweeping the area," Daphne reported, her voice tight with apprehension. "Passive sensors, they're still searching for us." Ryan's heart sank. Deactivating the emitter hadn't solved the problem, it had only bought them a few precious seconds. He scanned the sensor readings, desperately searching for any sign of hope. Then he saw it. A faint, erratic energy signature emanating from a damaged section of the bioarmor near the lower cargo bay. It was barely perceptible, a flicker in the noise, but it was there. "Daphne," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm detecting an anomaly in the bioarmor. Section 4 near the cargo bay. Check it out." Daphne's voice came back moments later, tinged with disbelief. "That section. It's resonating with the Krill's energy weapons, creating a feedback loop." Ryan felt a surge of adrenaline. The damaged section of armor wasn't just damaged. It was acting as a miniature version of the counter-frequency emitter, amplifying the Krill's energy and broadcasting their location. But then, a terrifying realization struck him. If it was acting as an emitter, could he weaponize it? "They're converging on that section," Daphne confirmed, her voice filled with dread. "They're drawn to the energy signature." Ryan's mind raced, calculating the risks, weighing the odds. He had a desperate idea, a long shot that could either save them or destroy them all. "Daphne," he said, his voice hardening with determination, "I'm going to overload that section of the bioarmor. Use it as a lure to draw them in, then we'll hit them with everything we've got." "Are you insane?" Daphne exclaimed. "That could tear the ship apart." "It's our only chance," Ryan replied, his voice unwavering. "Prepare for overload." He rerouted power to the damaged section of the bioarmor, feeding it every last ounce of energy he could muster. The armor began to glow, pulsating with a blinding light. The air crackled with static electricity. "Overload sequence initiated," he announced, his hand hovering over the final control. "Brace for impact." He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and slammed his hand down. The Dauntless lurched violently. Every system screamed in protest. Ryan braced for the end, knowing that the fate of the ship and his own hung in the balance. The overload ripped through the damaged section of the bioarmor. The energy, contained for so long, unleashed itself in a blinding flash of white-hot light that momentarily bleached the sensors. The bridge of the Dauntless flickered, emergency, light stuttering to life before stabilizing. The Krill swarm, caught in the blast radius, fared far worse. Their ships, mere silhouettes against the incandescent bloom, were vaporized, their energy shields offering no resistance. Others were tossed aside like debris in a storm, their hulls breached and sparking. The Dauntless groaned, a tortured symphony of metal protesting under impossible strain. A shudder ran through the ship, violent enough to throw unsecured equipment across the bridge. But the bio-armor, pushed to its absolute limit, held. The catastrophic explosion, the one that would have vaporized the Dauntless and everything around it, didn't happen. Ryan, straps digging into his shoulders, wrestled with the diagnostics console. His fingers flew across the damaged panel, coaxing readings from the flickering display. Armor integrity, 60%, still unstable, but contained. Detonation, averted. He wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, leaving a streak of grime across his forehead. Daphne's voice, tight with a mixture of relief and disbelief, cut through the tense silence. The Krill. They're retreating, their offensive capability crippled, they're breaking off the attack. Ryan sagged back in his seat, letting out a shaky breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He closed his eyes for a moment, the image of the blinding flash seared onto the back of his eyelids. Daphne turned to face him, her multifaceted eyes wide with something he hadn't seen before: awe. The resilience of this ship, Ryan, and that bio-armor. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered, to gamble on such experimental technology. It's astonishing. Ryan managed a weak smile. We didn't exactly have a lot of options, Daphne. Sometimes you just gotta roll the dice. He paused, then added, but you're quick thinking with the counter frequencies. That bought us the time we needed, I appreciate it. A hail crackled over the comms. The face of the Ithorian captain, usually stern and impassive, appeared on the main view screen, his expression softened with concern. Dauntless, this is Captain Thrax of the Resolute. We are moving to assist. What are your damage reports? He paused. What was that energy surge? Before Ryan could answer, the captain continued, regardless, that was an impressive display of firepower. This collaboration shows the potential for a stronger alliance between our species, one forged in mutual defense. We can accomplish more together than we ever could apart. Daphne, regaining her composure, stepped forward. Captain, I recommend immediate collaborative research between human and Ithorian scientists to study the bio-armor. Its potential applications are significant. Ryan nodded in agreement. And joint training exercises between our forces. We need to be prepared for threats like the Krill. They won't be back tomorrow, but they'll be back. The Ithorian captain nodded. Agreed. We will provide escort for the Dauntless back to the nearest human-controlled space station. You will receive priority docking and repair assistance. As the Ithorian cruisers maneuvered to form a protective cordon around the battered Dauntless, Ryan looked at Daphne. A faint smile played on her lips. I believe, she said, this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan replied, exhaustion weighing heavily on his voice. Interesting is one word for it. He looked forward to working with her, acknowledging a newfound respect for her intelligence and dedication. The final